May I have your attention, please? The presentation or sharing is about to begin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Professor Dr. Muhammad Shukri Saleh, our speaker for today, all distinguished guest professors, associate professors, doctors, brothers and sisters, good morning and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Dr. Noor Yuslida Hazahari and I am the moderator for today. We'll be together once a month here with our honorable speaker till the end of this year, inshallah. And to continue what we started with, Alhamdulillahi alladhi hadana li hadha wa ma kunna linahtadiya lawla an hadana Allah. Praise to Allah who has guided us to this, and we would never have been guided if Allah had not guided us. Allahumma nas'aluka ilman nafi'a wa rizqan tayyiba wa amalan mutaqabbala. O Allah, we ask you for beneficial knowledge, goodly provision, and acceptable deeds. First of all, we would humbly like to welcome all of you to INHART's first episode of INHART Monthly Book Talk Series 2023. In this occasion, we would be having a presentation or sharing by our honorable speaker of his book on 7 principles of Islamic-based development. This week would be on topic 1, the overview of conventional development theories. Before the presentation or sharing begins, allow me to introduce our honorable speaker. Prof. Dr. Muhammad Sakri or Shukri bin Saleh, using the pen name of Muhammad Shukri Saleh, holds a Bachelor of Social Sciences in Rural Studies in 1978 from University Science Malaysia, a diploma in Economics in 1980, and a Master of Arts in Rural Development 1981 from University of East Anglia, UK, and a Doctor of Philosophy in Islamic-Based Development 1991 from the University of Oxford, UK. He is currently an honorary professor of Islamic Development Management Center for Islamic Development Management Studies, ISDEF, of University Science Malaysia, USM. He was the ex-founding director of the center. Currently, he is also an adjunct professor of the Faculty of Islamic Development Management at University Islam Sultan Sharif Ali, UNISA, Brunei Darussalam. He has been appointed by 18 universities and academic institutions in 7 countries, Malaysia, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Japan, United Kingdom, Brunei Darussalam, and Indonesia as adjunct professor, visiting professor, honorary fellow, visiting scholar, and also faculty member. He has a total of about 236 publications, books, ebooks, chapters in books, journal articles, review articles, popular articles to his credit, and serve as International Advisory Council, Chairman of Advisory Board, Reviewer Board, and Editorial Board of 17 national and international academic journals. He has also delivered a total of about 360 keynote addresses, academic solicited talks, and working papers at various academic meetings, nationally and internationally. He has undertaken 59 national and international research and consultancy projects, especially in Malaysia, Brunei, Indonesia, Thailand, Singapore, and Vietnam, and associated with 14 professional bodies in United Kingdom, USA, Canada, the Netherlands, Bangladesh, Indonesia, and Thailand. Well, I hope I did justice to introduce our honorable speaker today. We are very honored to have you here with us today, Prof. May the Almighty Allah protect you and your family and always increase you in knowledge for you to be able to contribute much more that we needed. We would also like to remind the audience that you may leave your questions anytime in the chat box while the presentation is running. We shall read your questions there when we come to the Q&A session, or you have a choice of unmuting yourself and ask the questions directly to our honorable speaker. Now, without further ado, I would like to welcome our honorable speaker, Prof. Dr. Muhammad Shukri Saleh. The platform is yours, Prof.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Noor Yuslida and Dr. Noor Husna, brothers and sisters. I feel honored to be invited to be with INHART this morning, alhamdulillah, and inshallah for the next 8 or 9 months. Monthly we'll be meeting, inshallah. And I'm also very thankful to all of you, especially to INHART, to Dr. Husna, who has chosen my books to be discussed here, inshallah. So let me share my PowerPoint so that we are well guided in our discussion, inshallah. I will start by explaining a little bit, very briefly, about my book. Actually, it's a very small and very thin book. By the names of Tujuh Prinsip Pembangunan Masyarakat Islam. It is in Malay, and in English it is 7 Principles of Islamic-Based Development. And alhamdulillah, now at the moment, the English translations of the book is in progress now, and hopefully that in a short time, inshallah, in the near future, we'll have an e-book in English, inshallah. So actually the printed version was published in 2003, and the revised e-book was published at Indie at USM in 2022 last year. In this book, I discuss about 7 principles: the modes, the actors, the time scale, framework, methodology, means, and ultimate aims of the Islamic-based development. I think these 7 principles encompass everything that we need in the development, and I think it's very important for all of us to know about this, because it is not only for Islamic-based development, but also for in all disciplines, in all fields. We can always use these 7 principles, inshallah, and especially in halal, of course, we have to have the framework of the halal theories and all that, so that we can have all the modes of the halal, the actors, time scale, framework, methodology, means, and ultimate aim, inshallah. So the 7 principles are not confined to Islamic-based development per se, and I think this is applicable to all fields of academic discipline, inshallah. Even though this book is a very thin book, very small books, but alhamdulillah, I was surprised to observe that it has been expanded and also researched by many students, especially our student at ISTEF, USM, and at least 4 principles, 4 principles of the 7 principles have been researched very deeply by 4 PhD students at our university. And say, for instance, Dr. Shukri Muhammad Hanafi has researched into the modes, and especially on Tasawwur Islamic development, Islamic-based development. Dr. Sheriza Muhammad Sanif research on the actors of the Islamic-based development. Dr. Roda has researched on the means of the Islamic development-based development, and also Dr. Arifin has done quite an interesting research on the ultimate end of Islamic-based development. But apart from that, there are a lot of theses on the thesis at PhD and also at master's level that was based on this book to expand the discussions on various aspects of the principles, either theoretically or empirically. So all of you are invited, if you are interested to get to know more into these principles, then you are invited to ISTEF, inshallah. We have all the theses, and some of them have been published, inshallah. All right, this is the brief explanation of the book. As for the first chapter, I think we need to discuss about the conventional development theories. because I think it's unfair for us to go straight into the principles of Islamic-based development without knowing the conventional development theories. So that's why on the first, in the first chapter, I committed myself to discuss, and inshallah we will discuss here briefly on the conventional development theory, inshallah. Yeah, let's start. When I talk about the conventional development theories, actually, I'm referring to the theories, the development theories that have been established and emerged after 1945, after the Second World War. We observe that after the Second World War, the Western countries, especially the Western Europes and the people over there will try to find a development theory, try to develop themselves to redevelop the destroyed states, their states, to destroy to redevelop their destroyed states due to the Second World War. So we can see from there emerge few theories, and after that there has been expanded to various theories until now, alhamdulillah. So we can say that roughly that the conventional development theories has been emerged or established in Western Europe, and then that's why we refer the theories, the conventional development theories, as Western ethnocentric or Eurocentric, because they establish the theories based on their experience, the Western countries' experience. Yeah. So initially, the concept of Western ethnocentric or Eurocentric is confined to those people, to those development theorists that resided in the Western Europe. But later on, the minds or the ideology of the Western ethnocentric development theories have been spread to all over the world, and therefore it is not based on the original space as such. And we can always say that there are Western ethnocentric or Eurocentric theories, development theories in Malaysia, for instance, even though they are Malaysians or Indians or whoever they are, as far as they commit or adopts the Western ethnocentric or Eurocentric development thinking, so we consider them as the Western ethnocentric or Eurocentric development theorist. Yeah, this very briefly about the and then we can say, we can observe that actually all the development theories have been emerged from within just two philosophies, which we can call the neoclassical philosophy, and the second one is the radical philosophy. So these are the two dominant philosophies that has produced a few theories, yes? So for instance, from within the development philosophies paradigms, there emerged what we call the growth theory development theories, and then later on the redistribution with growth theories. While on the radical philosophies, from within the radical philosophies framework, we can observe that there emerged what we can call the structuralist theory, and the other one is the dependency theory. So these are the two dominant philosophies that created the development stories. The development stories that we are discussing and also learning in our development studies at the moment. Yeah, but apart from that, I observe it is not really neoclassical and radical. Towards the end of 1970s, we can observe that there are a mixture of neoclassical and radical philosophies, which, for instance, have produced and deal with basic needs theories, especially by international level organization in 1976. And later on, which is now popular, very popular at the moment, is the sustainable development theories, introduced by United Nations also, especially through the Brundtland report in 1987. And now it has been enhanced and expanded into the latest strategy, which we come to now by the names of Sustainable Development Goals. Yeah, Sustainable Development Goals. So we can see that actually roughly, yeah, basically, all the development theories, all development stories came up from within the three kinds of philosophies: the neoclassical philosophy, the radical philosophy, and the other one is the mixture of the neoclassical and radical philosophies. Yeah, the neoclassical philosophies, created the growth theory with growth theory, which later on entailed with capitalism, were radical through structuralist theory and dependency theories, entail with what we came to know as socialisms or communism. While neoclassical and radical philosophies, the theories within the neoclassical and radical philosophies, we can hardly observe any ideological links to any neoclassical or radical. It is much more of a neutral, but then definitely it is still dominated by the neoclassical as it is introduced by United Nations. Yeah, by United Nations, we know that United Nations has been dominated by the Western countries, and therefore I think neoclassical is much more dominant than the radical theory in that basic needs theory and sustainable development theory. Right? Let we see a little bit in detail about these theories. Let's go to the growth theory. Growth theory started with the assumptions that the scarcity of resources and unlimited ones. They are saying resources are scarce and limited, while the humans' wants are unlimited. So therefore, they accept the fact that the resources are scarce, because as we consume the resources, the more we consume, the less it is available. While our wants, our desire, are unlimited, and it is always developing, and we want a lot of things from time to time. So basically, growth theory wanted to find a way how to fulfill the unlimited wants of human beings within the constraints of the scarcity of resources. And then apart from that, they also assumes that human desire and unlimited wants leads to the pursuits of profit, and it is good for them because the human desires and unlimited wants will lead to the increasing productivity and economic growth, and also eventually will lead to the increase of the gross domestic product per person. And they hope that by that, there will be a trickle-down effect on all society. So beginning probably from the those who are having high desires, with high unlimited wants, and pursue for profit, and therefore they have to work more to produce more, and eventually will lead to economic growth. And at the national level, we can measure it by gross domestic product per person. And by that, they hope that the trickle-down effect will also go to those who are not having the much human desire, yeah, especially to the poor. The mechanism is self-regulated. It's a much more of a free market. The market is self-regulated in response to the supply and demand. And there's also free competition. Yeah? Competitors with the smart strategies will be allowed to fulfill their aims to get more profit, and hopefully at the end, the trickle-down effect will happen. So the actors' behavior for them is consumer make a rational decision to maximize utility, and the aims to maximize profit, and the people are acting independently based on all the information they have. So they have the choice or action. And factors of production in order to produce something, So they need the labor, the land, capital, entrepreneurship, and apa ni sekarang ini on technology. So the measurement, whether growth is happening or not. So definitely it's the productivity. The high the productivity, the high is the growth, and the per capita income. So it's the purchasing power. By having much per capita income, people are having a high purchasing power, and therefore we can measure that by GDP, gross domestic product, where we can measure the consumer spending and business investment, and also government spending and net exports. So this is basically the growth theory. We can always discuss that in detail at the stages of growth theory by Rostow and many more. But for us, I think it's enough for us to just to get to know the very brief background of the theory. But then later on, they found out that growth theory, yes, it is successful to lead to the growth, but then there is also problems with the growth theory, because a trickle-down effect did not happen. Yeah, and because of that, we can see that there are increasing of the inequalities, and therefore, from within the neoclassical paradigms, philosophies, there emerged another theory by the name of redistribution with growth theory. So the people who are advocating that, the redistribution with growth theory, they believe in growth. They believe that growth must be endeavored, but at the same time, we make to make sure that the growth has to be redistributed equally, so that trickle-down effect will happen, and also the poor can get their share, and then decrease the inequality within the society. But one unique, interesting methodology that they are using, they are actually redistributing the incremental wealth, not the factors of production. Meaning that those people who are having land, capital, and whatever that can be considered as factors of production, they remains as their honor. Yeah, their hearts, their ownerships. But what they want to distribute is the wealth, the profit, the incremental profit from the usage of the factors of production. Yeah, and this is the has been criticized by the people, by the development theorists within the radical philosophies. Yeah, they are saying if you want to redistribute and reduce inequality, so we need not to redistribute only the incremental wealth, but also the factors of productions. Meaning that we need to redistribute the land, we need to redistribute the capital, the entrepreneurship, and so forth, and so forth. So by doing that, and then we can see there emerge two kinds of theories within the radical philosophies. Number one is the structuralist theory. Yeah, structuralist theory emerged in response to the failure of the growth theory. As I've said just now, trickle-down effect did not happen. Inequality increased. The poor becomes poorer. The richer becomes richer. And therefore, the structuralist theory was saying that we need not only to distribute the incremental wealth, but also the means of production. We can realize that in the neoclassical philosophy, they use the words factors of productions or the inputs of production. While in the radical philosophy, they use means of production, ya, macam tadi land, capital, entrepreneurship, technology. For neoclassical theories, they are saying they use the concept of factors of production or input of production, while in the radical philosophies, they use the concept of means of production. Bendanya sama saja, ya, benda sama saja. So structural story seeks to explain why some regions lag behind in terms of the per capita income, why this lag is accompanied by sharp inequalities in distribution, both within the lagging region and also within the countries. So they come up with the reasons actually it is lagging, it is failed because of the exploitative commodities extractions by the developed countries. You see, the undeveloped countries produce a lot of commodities and they exported it. The developed country extracted it and then exported it, and then they processed and then sent back to the poor countries to be consumed as a final consumer product. So the commodities has been exported, processed in the developed countries, and then sent back to the poor countries to be consumed by the people over there with a high price. So structuralist story come with a solution of what they call import substitution. So instead of exporting the commodities, macam apa ni, getah, palm oil and all that, and then they process the commodities locally in the undeveloped countries, so that exploitative commodities extraction did not happen, and then they process the commodities at home, produce the final consumer products, and then sell to the people with a lower price. But later on, the structure study has been criticized, because the technology, the experts to process the commodities are also imported from the developed countries. They are not really independent. And therefore, from within the radical philosophy themselves, they emerge a group of development theories introducing what they call a dependency theories, because they assume the structural studies is not radical enough and unable to entail with revolution. It is not a total revolution. And they start to introduce dependency theory, start to introduce discourses at the center versus periphery. So they explain that actually the extractions of the surplus commodities happens not only from undeveloped countries to developed countries, but also it happens within the undeveloped country itself, the poor country itself. So, say for instance, the center is the Kuala Lumpur, for instance, but they have the peripheries, the other capital of other states like Kota Baru, Kuantan, Ipoh, and these are the peripheries. And apart from that, lower from that, Ipoh within the Perak, for instance, is the center of the country, but then below there are a lot of other peripheries, and the districts are peripheries, and the district will also considered a center, and then below the districts there are also Mukim dan sebagainya, it is considered periphery. So actually the extractions of the commodities and surplus happens from the very beginning at the lowest level of a state to the country. And then the country is, for instance, in Kuala Lumpur, is considered a center from within Malaysia, but then it is considered as periphery at the global level. So the center is London, New York, yeah. the upper hierarchy of the economy. So the extraction also happened, and then we can see that dependency theory tried to expand the explanation of not only having the exploitative commodities extraction from poor country to the developed country, but also it happens within the poor country itself. Yeah. So the solution is very radical. Dependency theories were saying that in order to develop yourself, you need to detach yourself, from the centers. You have to develop yourself independently from the centers, which is quite impossible, and until now, it does not happen as yet. Yeah, but then one thing we can realize that the radical philosophies, the theories of the radical philosophies have led to the emergence of socialism and also communism. Yeah, as we know, many countries adopts this kind of system, right? But then later on, we observe that there emerge kind of a more neutral theories, which is not really based on ideologies, rather neoclassical or radical ideologies or philosophies, but it is more neutral in the sense that they want to fulfill anything without based their suggestions on any particular ideologies, as compared to the previous radical and also the neoclassical development strategies. Yeah. So the first thing, I think the two dominance theory that have been developed from that kind of more flexible ideologies and systems is a basic needs theory, introduced by international level organization in 1976. They started to realize that actually the poor is poor because they do not have anything to fulfill their basic needs. They do not have much food to fulfill their life, and also the clothes, accommodation, education, health, transport, public facilities. And in fact, people like Researchh, for instance, she was saying that development cannot happen until we eliminate poverty, we eliminate inequality, and we eliminate unemployment. And through eliminations of poverty, inequality, and unemployment, then we are able to fulfill the basic needs of the people at all levels. This is basically the basic needs theory. But then later on, which is much popular until now, is the sustainable development theory. As I have said, it was introduced by UN Brundtland report in 1987. And then we observed that later on, it has been developed into sustainable development goals to be realized from 2015 to be endeavored from 2015 and to be realized fully, inshallah, in 2030. They have 17 goals. I'm sure that all of you know about this. No poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being quality until the partnerships for the goals. But then I came to understand that IIUM has introduced has added another goals. If I'm not mistaken, it's a spirituality, isn't it? Spirituality goals, because dalam 17 goals they do not have that the spirituality aspects. All right. So basically, what is meant by sustainable development is by UN. Is the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So we cannot consume for ourselves per se, but then we have to also reserve for our future generations so that they can also meet their needs. So we can see that the components of the sustainable development is the human sustainability, to maintain and improve the human capital in society, and then the social sustainability, the economic sustainability, and lastly is the environmental sustainability. So if you can conclude, probably, inshallah, we can conclude by saying that we can see the dominant development theories have been emerged from within three kinds of development philosophies. The first one is neoclassical philosophy, which produce the growth and redistribution with growth theory, which led to the establishment of the capitalism, and then later on the radical philosophies, which produced the structuralist theory and also the dependency theory, and until with a system by the name of socialism and communism. And then later on, we observe that there are also the mixture of the ideologies and systems, the neoclassical and the radical, as we have seen in China, in Vietnam. Yeah, and they were more tolerated with capitalism, and in fact invited capitalism into themselves, and they found that they can develop more as opposed to the previous radical philosophy per se. So we can see there emerge the basic needs theory and also the sustainable development theory. Okay, so this is the conventional development theories. From my perspective, from what I've learned, but we can also see there are also people who try to categorize the conventional development theories into another way. For instance, there are people who also categorize development theories into three. The first one is what they call modernization theory. Number two is the dependency theory. Number three is the world development theory. Actually, this is quite the same, because modernization theory is actually also then emerged from neoclassical philosophies, which refer to growth and also redistribution with growth theories. Only the term is used as modernization. All right, dependency theory from within the radical theory. They ignore the structuralist theory, so they go straight to the dependency theory. And the other one is the world system theory, which also discuss about the center and peripheries, which I think also can be included into the radical philosophies. What they have not discussed is about the mixed ideologies and systems that has been produced basic needs theory and sustainable development theory. So I think that's all that I want to say today, inshallah, as a basic. And next one will be criticizing these stories from the Islamic perspective, inshallah, before we embark into the 7 principles of Islamic-based development. Thank you very much, Dr. No Yuslida. Back to you.